Hey everybody, thanks for checking us out at Petersen's Bowhunting. Today I'm going to give you a first look at the brand new Vapor RS470 from TenPoint Crossbows. You know, the Vapor RS470 is TenPoint's flagship model for 2020, and it is absolutely packed with new features and high-tech innovations that quite honestly are pushing the boundaries when it comes to crossbow performance. So if you're a crossbow hunter or a crossbow enthusiast, you're definitely going to want to see everything that the RS470 has to offer. So what we're going to do is provide an overview of the key features of this crossbow. Then we'll head outside to the range where I can demonstrate the crossbow in action, and we'll come inside to wrap things up. So there's a lot to cover. Let's go ahead and dive right in. You know, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this crossbow, but the two big takeaways are speed and safety. So we'll start with those. First and foremost, you've got speed to burn with this crossbow. As you might guess from the name of this model, the speed rating on the Vapor RS470 is an almost mind-boggling 470 feet per second, making this the very fastest crossbow on the market today. And there are a number of ways that TenPoint is able to achieve that kind of speed. So, all right, so one of the ways that TenPoint is able to generate so much speed is thanks in part to the reverse draw design. As you can see on this crossbow, you've got the limbs facing away from the shooter as opposed to toward the shooter on a more traditional crossbow design. And what that does, again, as you can see, is it results in the string being way up here at the top of the crossbow, so it's further away from the trigger box. That allows TenPoint to have a longer power stroke with this bow, so you've got a 17-inch power stroke thanks to that reverse draw configuration. The longer the power stroke, the longer you're pulling the string, the more you're turning the cams, the more energy you store in the system. Along with that longer power stroke, TenPoint outfits the RS470 with their RX7 cams. And when the bow is drawn, these cams rotate more than a full revolution, which would be 360 degrees. These cams actually rotate 404 degrees. So you have a lot of rotation, and when the string is released, it's creating a very powerful whipping effect that TenPoint refers to as slingshot technology. So those are a couple of the ways that they're able to generate such great speeds. And then you have some other things that are working in tandem with that to make this not only a very fast crossbow, but a very accurate one as well. You know, one thing that you're going to notice when you look at the crossbow is the cable system. And what you see here is that you've got 4 cables rather than 2 cables. So there's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And what you'll see when you look at the crossbow is you have one cable that is anchored to the top of each cam and another cable that's anchored to the bottom. And so you wonder, why does TenPoint do this? And the answer is actually pretty simple, and I'm sure that the engineers could talk about it a lot more, but for a regular hunter like you and I, what we need to know is this. This divides the load that the draw cycle creates on the top half of the cam and the bottom half of the cam evenly, so that you're not having the cams want to lean one way or another while they're going through the draw cycle. As a result, flatter cam rotation means flatter string movement, which means a more consistent and accurate flight of your arrows downrange. So that's the Vector Quad cable system. Now, finally, I wanted to touch on the CNC machined aluminum riser and the tri-lock limb pockets. These limb pockets do a really great job of keeping the limbs and the riser perfectly mated up to one another, which is important because if you have slop or movement going on there, that's going to result in an inconsistent flight of your arrow from shot to shot. The next really big feature that TenPoint is promoting and that I find probably as interesting, if not more interesting than the speed, is safety. And that comes in the form of a brand new cocking mechanism called the ACUslide. The ACUslide is a crank cocking mechanism that allows you to cock and decock the crossbow string silently and also safely, because it has an internal braking mechanism that automatically engages anytime you would accidentally let go of the handle or actually just decide you want to pause during the cocking process. So as you're cranking this handle, which seats right into the buttstock of the crossbow, let's say you have the string halfway back and all of a sudden your hand slips off of that. With some crossbows in the past, you might automatically find that you'd have a violent, whipping around of this handle as the string goes back to the at-rest position, and you could potentially damage your crossbow or hurt yourself in the process. But with the ACUslide, you don't have to worry about that. The other great thing about the ACUslide is this cocking handle actually telescopes. Right here, I've got it in the fully extended position, and here you can see I've just collapsed it. So it about doubles in length from its size as it nests into the stock of the crossbow like this. You pull it out, you mate it to the cranking connection, and then you can extend it, and that extension increases your leverage with this as well. That added leverage takes the draw weight of this crossbow, which is 225 pounds, and it reduces it to 5 pounds. So not only is it silent, not only is it safe, it's also really easy. And this is something that I can't wait to show you a little bit more about when we go outside and actually demonstrate it, because it's pretty cool, and when you see it in action, I think you're going to agree with me about that. Safety is always paramount when you're talking about crossbows. So in addition to that added safety offered by the new ACUslide cocking mechanism, there are several other things that are worth mentioning quickly here on the RS470. One, you've got an auto engaging trigger safety here. So that goes from the fire position into the safe position automatically when the string is cocked. You have a pass-through foregrip down here on the bottom of the crossbow, so you can get a really firm grip on the bow with your forehand as you're aiming and coming for the shot. And then right above that, you've got these wide safety wings that are going to remind you to keep your hands well below and safely out of the string's path. So finally, you've got a latch here that will prevent the crossbow from being fired if you don't have an arrow properly knocked on the rail. So lots of things built in here to try and avoid any accidents or things that could cause injury or damage to your crossbow through an accidental dry fire. Okay, just a couple other things that are important features that are worth mentioning before we head out to the range. One is the flight rail on this crossbow. This is a new 20-inch micro track fluted aluminum rail, and if you look closely, what you'll see is that on either side of the rail, TenPoint has gone and machined out a groove in the center. And what they've done by doing this, they've dramatically reduced the surface area. Matter of fact, they've cut it down by 50%. And what that does, obviously when you fire a crossbow, the string is traveling across that flight rail. And by reducing the surface area by 50%, you're dramatically cutting down on the friction. And so reduced friction means reduced wear on your string, means longer string life. So for you as a shooter, that's adding to the durability of your bowstring, and it's also actually saving you some money because you're not going to have to replace the string quite as often as you would with that additional friction. Second, they've got a brand new trigger on this crossbow, and they're calling this the new S1 trigger. It's a 3.5 pound pull trigger, and the thing that really is unique about this trigger versus the triggers that you would have been familiar with on previous generations of TenPoint crossbows is that this S1 trigger is a 2-stage trigger. So you can't really tell now because the string is not cocked and there's no tension on this trigger, but as you'll know from competition shooting, very popular on hunting rifles nowadays, 2-stage triggers are going to have a take-up stage where you actually go ahead and take up the slack up until you reach that breakover point. At that point, the trigger is going to become firm, and then you're going to have zero creep in that second stage, where the instant that you apply those 3.5 pounds of pressure, the trigger is going to break with no creep, and your shot is going to be fired. So another new feature, a brand new trigger design for TenPoint in 2020. Okay, a couple final things before we head outside. I'm sure you're all interested in some basic specifications on the RS470. Length of this crossbow is 31 inches from the buttstock to the end of the flight rail here. That doesn't include the foot stirrup. The advertised weight on this crossbow is 8 pounds. That's with no accessories added. The crossbow that we're using here for the demonstration today, I weighed this at just under 10 pounds, and this has everything on it with the exception of the quiver. The width of this crossbow, axle to axle, here at rest is just about 12 inches, but when this crossbow is fully cocked, it's amazingly compact at only 6.5 inches wide. Now let's head outside so I can do some shooting, demonstrate the ACUslide cocking and decocking mechanism, then we'll come back in and wrap things up. Okay, so we're outside now on the range, and I finally have a chance to give you a demonstration of the new ACUslide system. So in the crossbow itself, the cocking handle nests right into the stock. So all you have to do is yank on it and then pull it straight down, and you get the cocking handle out, okay? And you can see that there's a slot here right in the side of the stock where it nests, and this works just like your ratchet set at home. So you push the button here on top to depress the ball bearing. That'll seat in there, and you release it, and now that's securely locked in. This is your release lever for your trigger mechanism. So what you're going to do is you're going to push on that, and you're going to go in the direction of decocking. And what you see here is your trigger mechanism is going to start to move down the rail, and you're just going to keep on turning that. I'm unwinding the ACUslide, and you see the entire trigger mechanism and the retention brush is going to go down there. Now that it's all the way down there, I'm going to go ahead and lift this up so you can hear it. Come on in tight. What's going to happen once you have enough slack, you can probably hear that click. I'm going to actually loosen up just a little bit more, make sure I have enough slack on there that it's, oh, there we go. Now it's clicked in. That first click that you heard was the anti-dry fire, basically the catch if you would shoot the bow without an arrow installed. And that second click is actually the trigger now latching onto the string. So now that you have it latched on, all you have to do is start cranking to cock the bow. And this is the beauty of the ACUslide, because watch here, watch my hand. What happens here? Let's say you just decide you want to stop. It goes nowhere. So you can bring this 2/3 of the way to full draw and just stop, and the string doesn't go anywhere. If you decide you want to let down, all you have to do is start going in the direction of the decock, and you see the string's going to go down right back towards the fully at rest position. So if you want to come in here tight and see that you can just crank this right back in, again, at any point you can stop. This is great. It feels so safe. I know that for a lot of you who hunt with crossbows, myself included, probably the you know, if there's any scary part of it all, it's this cocking, because you know there's a lot of energy that you're storing during this process. It's so nice to just be able to know that if your hand slips off of that crank while you're going, nothing bad is going to happen. And again, as I mentioned, this handle telescopes, and when you have it fully extended, this is going to give you the ability to cock this crossbow 225-pound draw weight with just 5 pounds of effort. Now come in here close, and you're going to want to listen. When you get this done, you saw it click, you saw the trigger retention lever moved and went into like the fully cocked position. As soon as you hear that click, there's no need to cock anymore. Okay, so let's say you've been out hunting and you haven't had an opportunity to take a shot. Now you're heading back home and you've got to decock your crossbow. Again, this is going to be where traditionally most of us would carry either an arrow with a field point, or we'd have a special uncocking bolt. With the Vapor RS470 with the ACUslide, there's no need for that. It's very, very easy for me to decock the crossbow, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So again, you'd simply remove your cocking handle from the stock, attach this to your interface here in the stock, and what you're going to need to do is you're going to move in the direction of cocking the crossbow a little bit to relieve tension off of the lever. Now I'm going to depress the latch, the trigger release latch. I'm pushing here on the other side. You can see it move when I press there. And then I'm going to move in the direction of decocking. And just like that, as soon as you get past the latch, you can let that go. Now look at my hands. I have nothing. I've released the trigger mechanism and I let go. I've got my string almost fully cocked. Again, the internal brake is going to always prevent an accident during this. And now that I've got it released, all I have to do is to continue to move all the way down into the fully relaxed position. Now I've completely relaxed all the tension on my string without having to take a shot. And if I'm just going to be heading out maybe later in the day or the next day, there's really not even any need to remove the ACUslide from the string. It's just sitting there, and then I can just hook up again and recock the crossbow. And you can remove that if you want to. If you're storing it away for the season, you can obviously unattach that, and there's a process for that that's very simple. So that's a look at the ACUslide cocker and decocker. Nothing else quite like this in terms of the ease and safety of decocking a crossbow that I'm aware of, and definitely one of the most useful features on the new Vapor RS470. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take a shot with the crossbow now. One thing that we talked about earlier in the video is how the reverse draw mechanism allows for TenPoint to have a longer power stroke with this bow, which helps to increase the speed. Another thing that this reverse draw configuration does is it brings the riser of the crossbow close to the middle of the unit here, and that really helps with the balance point. You know, when I just go ahead and take my hand and put it under the stock here, this bow balances really well right here, so it doesn't have that front end heavy feel that you have with a lot of crossbows, and it really helps with the overall maneuverability and comfort of the crossbow. So go ahead and take my aim. This is where that two-stage trigger comes into play. If you want to get a close-up here on my finger, you can see this is the first stage. See that? That's where all the play in the trigger is in that take-up stage. Then once you're on your target, you take up the first stage, and then as soon as you squeeze through, there's no creep whatsoever in that second stage. It's a very crisp break after you've gone through the take-up. So we'll go ahead and do one more shot just to walk you through the process again. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take one more shot for you. You know, again, I had just told you guys how well this crossbow balances because of that reverse draw configuration. And so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna shoot this one offhand. I'm not gonna sit down. You saw I didn't even use a shooting stick for the last shot. I'm just gonna go ahead and shoot this one offhand. I was right on the edge of the aiming point over there where I was aiming, so I missed by about that much. So not too bad with that's about my fourth shot with this crossbow. I took a couple shots before I shot for you guys just to adjust the scope a little bit. But overall, I tell you what, this is an impressive crossbow, and I don't know what you guys are hearing in the video, but I can tell you that considering the fact that this is the fastest crossbow that you can buy right now, I don't find it to be particularly loud, relatively speaking, to other crossbows that I've used over the years. So I'm pretty impressed overall. First impressions of the RS470, definitely a really good hunting tool. So we'll head back inside, wrap it up, and get you on your way. Couple final things you need to know. TenPoint provides this crossbow only as a complete kit. So if you buy this crossbow, you're not only going to get the crossbow with the ACUslide and the string stop, you're going to get it with the Evo X precision crossbow scope. This comes installed and pre-sighted from the factory. You're going to get a dozen premium crossbow arrows. That's going to include 6 of your standard center punch arrows with the Alpha Nock, and then also 6 illuminated crossbow arrows with the Alpha Nock. In addition, you're going to get a Stag hard crossbow case. You're going to get a 10-point sling. You're going to get 1 3-pack of the center punch rear deploying broadheads, and you're going to get TenPoint's new 6-arrow tech quiver. So pretty much everything that you need to take it out of the box, get yourself set up, hit the practice range, and head right into the tree stand, ground blind, or your spot and stalk, whatever kind of hunting you want to do. Lastly, this bow that we used today for the video is in the Veil Alpine camo. If you prefer a solid color, this bow is also available in graphite gray. And your pricing on these packages for this particular model, the RS470, for the Veil Alpine, you're looking at $29.99.99, so just under $3,000. And for the graphite gray, it's $28.99.99. You can learn more at the TenPoint website, or better yet, you can go check out this bow at your local TenPoint dealer today. Thanks for watching, and good luck in the field this year.